Hi for inviting me to kind of share my project Lumos with your guys' group. Lumos is an LLM copilot for browsing the web, and it's all powered by local LLMs. So just a quick agenda. I'll give a quick intro for myself. I want to kind of talk about the origin story of how this project came into existence, because I think it's a little bit interesting and it's just a fun backstory to share. I'll go into exactly what Lumos is, what it does, just a handful of like technical details that might be interesting to people who are building LLM applications, and then we can get into like a live demo, and maybe if someone wants to volunteer to help me, that'd be great as well. If not, I'll rely on Hi to give me a hand for the demo. And at the end, I will talk a little bit about some future plans that I have for Lumos, and would love to hear feedback from everyone on those plans and the project and some of the ideas moving forward. And then at the end, we can have an open Q&A, or we can do Q&A just right here in between each slide. So that's totally okay with me. So I'm Andrew, once again. I'm a software engineer by trade. Right now, I'm on my kind of founder journey of figuring out, what software to build. I'm trying to build a business, of course. Currently, I'm a member of a community called South Park Commons. Specifically, I'm part of their founder fellowship program. That basically just means that I've raised venture capital from South Park Commons, and there is an expectation for me to build and scale a venture scale business. Last year around June, my co-founder and I launched a product called Admin AI, and this was a sales co-pilot tool for automating administrative work for account executives and SDRs. And this is like my core experience building LLM applications. Unfortunately, we shut it down, only a month or two later. We weren't getting enough traction. And so after the shutdown, I made it a point for myself to make sure that I was keeping up with all of the latest and greatest LLM technology. I think as you guys all probably know, the space is moving so quickly. It almost feels like anytime you push out any kind of code out there, it's just like obsolete, within the next 2 weeks. And, it's really tough. And so, I wanted to make sure that I was like deliberately, practicing coding, but also, trying to adopt and learn the new technology. And so that's what I'm doing with Lumos. Building Lumos is a big motivator for that. And, additionally, for my company, I'm also looking into supply chains and supply chain technology. Before this all started last year for me, I was previously working at Carta, trying to bootstrap Carta X's data platform. I was previously working at Netflix on Netflix's real-time data infrastructure. And if you're familiar with the Honey Chrome extension, it's just a coupon app that helps you find deals when you're shopping online. I was the first data engineer at that company, and I helped build out their product catalog, which powers their drop list functionality and price change notifications. So, my time at Honey a little bit inspired, Lumos in its current form, which is a Chrome extension at the moment. So, origin story: how did this idea even come up? So, my wife and I, we go out to restaurants sometimes, and whenever we're kind of deciding what to eat, she will always check the reviews for the restaurant to see what other people are ordering. And I think the idea actually literally came up when we were at dinner one time, and I was thinking, hey, maybe I can actually build something that would scrape a Yelp's business page, and also, kind of pick out what people are saying are the best things to order at a restaurant. And so, if you generalize that kind of insight more broadly, any website that generates content, whether or not it's user generated or editorialized or curated by the website, should have LLM capability built in. It almost feels like that is an expectation and should be the baseline. And so I went out and built an application which was deployed as a website. I called it reviews.gpt. You can see by the screenshot on the left, I used all of the color branding of that company Yelp. I kind of like uh, don't want to bring too much attention to it, which I'll get into in the next slide. But it worked extremely well. Like you would just put in a URL for a Yelp's business page, and you would just ask any questions about that, about the reviews for that business. And in our use case, we were just using it to look at restaurants, and so you could ask it, what are the best things to order? And really underrated question, what are the best things to avoid? If you really think about it, when people leave reviews on Yelp, a lot of the time they are negative reviews, and that's probably true of just reviews in general. Like people are motivated to kind of say negative things, which is unfortunate, but you actually get a lot of feedback about what you should avoid, what didn't taste good, what chicken was too dry, etc. So it was like kind of like a fun toy project. And I decided to write about the implementation, share some of the code. The code is available on my GitHub right now if you guys want to look at it. But I published the article on November 7th last year, and 2 days later, I got this notice, which is the screen on the screenshot on the right. It is a DMCA takedown notice for my article on Medium. So I redacted all of the contact information from the company and the people, but I just want to kind of share that story because I thought it was like a little bit fun. And like at first I felt a little bit sad. I was like kind of bummed out because I think my article got like some good publicity. It resonated with people. Like the use case was like super fun. And so I kind of was at first a little bit sad. And then I kind of turned into like wanting revenge, kind of like jokingly, but also not jokingly. And so I was thinking, how do I rebuild Reviews GPT, but I want to do it at scale and I want it to work for every website, not just Yelp. So I was actually thinking through this problem for quite a bit. Jonathan, I'll get to your question in a second. I was kind of thinking about this problem for quite a bit, and at the same time, I also discovered local LLMs, and so I think this was just a random cross of two different things, two different ideas. I had looked into this technology called Web LLM, which was trying to build LLMs that could run inside your browser. And then I also discovered Ollama, which is a platform for running open source LLMs on your local machine. And those two ideas came together, and I thought, hey, like in Reviews GPT, I was leveraging OpenAI's GPT for doing all of the LLM processing, but maybe to get this really to scale, because I can't afford to pay for GPT for everyone to use. Maybe I need to offload some of this work to a local LLM, and so that's kind of how these two ideas came together to power Lumos. Jonathan, go ahead.
Sorry, it's not really a question. It's more it's funny that they sent you a DMCA. They didn't want to ask you to put it in their system. That's like missed opportunity. I guess Yelp is gonna be like Stack Overflow and just die.
Yeah, I was actually considering reaching out back to the contact and offering to just help them build it or just hand over the code to them. And that's something that I'm completely fine with. And Yelp they have a strong engineering team, so they already know what they're doing, right? It's not like they couldn't just build this for themselves. But then you kind of get to the next level of thinking of like, okay, what is their motivation for not having this already, or not wanting to build it or whatever? And that's the hard part, to kind of get into the mind of their product team or their business team of like, why wouldn't you have this? And it's extremely valuable data, right? Reviews, not just on Yelp, but product reviews on Amazon, right? I imagine Amazon is extremely protective of this data as well, and you could do a lot of things if you just had that corpus of data, just readily available. And maybe OpenAI was already scraping that for the last like 4 years or whatever. But anyways, yeah, unfortunate, and hopefully they do build it into their system soon, because it would be a huge help for the people who use that website. But yeah, maybe Lumos is like the solution to that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to kind of call out a few things about local LLMs just to kind of highlight them if you're not familiar. Local LLMs are free, and I put that in quotation marks because you don't necessarily pay with money to use a local LLM, but it is not resource free, right? So you need to have a computer to run it. I have a MacBook Pro, and it's like fairly powerful, and so local LLMs don't necessarily run on hardware that is not as robust as, let's say, like an M1 Mac, for example, and you get pretty good inference speed with that type of hardware. Your data, so the prompts and the results that you issue to the LLM, are private. They never leave your computer. You could literally disconnect from Wi-Fi, unplug your computer from Ethernet, and the LLM would still do inference very fast. And they're also accessible, like I kind of just said, in low bandwidth areas. So just imagine 3G networks, right? I live in the United States. You guys live in Canada. We're spoiled because we have access to high speed internet, but that is not true for everyone in the world. And so I do feel like there is a huge opportunity for local LLMs to have a use case for inference at the edge. So whether that's on the client side or whether that's on your cell phone, etc. And if you need another reason to want to use LLMs, I just kind of discovered this morning, but it seems like there is a sustained outage with OpenAI. It started last night, I guess. I wasn't even aware of that, but it is still ongoing
all weekend.
as of this morning. Okay, all weekend?
Yeah.
Really?
Horrible.
What the heck? Okay. Well, anyways, if there is a time where you if there's an outage with your LLM provider, you can always like load balance your work to a local LLM if you have that appropriately set up. But yeah, so that's the origin story of Lumos. So what is Lumos? Lumos is a Chrome extension, LLM Copilot for browsing the web. That's kind of just the tagline that I quickly share with everyone. It's powered by local LLMs served via Ollama. And what it does is it will scrape any web page that you're currently looking at. So just whatever the current tab is, and it'll pass the contents to Ollama for processing. So you can ask it, summarize the contents on this page, or ask it a question of like, what is this paragraph talking about, for example. And that was kind of the generalized use case of what are the best dishes to order at this restaurant on Yelp, right? And so some technical details. It uses a generalized scraping configuration for all websites. So I know that was like kind of a word salad, but I'll get into specifically what that configuration looks like to kind of make it a little bit more real for everyone. It uses a online in-memory RAG implementation. So RAG is retrieval augmented generation. Basically, all of the content on a website is scraped, it's chunked into different documents. The documents are uploaded to a vector store, and all within the same request response process. The prompt will be passed to the vector store to kind of retrieve the most relevant documents, and then those relevant documents will be put back into the final prompt to the LLM. Lumos supports multimodal LLMs. So Lava is one of those multimodal LLMs that can be served through Ollama. So I'll do a quick demo of the multimodal functionality. And a feature that I just added this past weekend was the ability to execute LangChain pools. So LangChain tools are tools that you issue to agents to kind of invoke. My implementation is a little bit different, and I have some ideas that I want to write about here. But I'll give you a demo of some of the tools, or actually the only tool that it has right now, and it's a calculator tool that I built. But yeah, that's it. And before we get into the demo, how any questions, any comments? Happy to take them now. If not, then let's go into the demo. So I'll
sorry, just a quick question.
Mhm.
Thank you for the talk, by the way. I was actually at the SPC just 2 weeks ago, so I miss you.
Awesome.
I was, yeah. A question I had was, and the people that you're targeting for this tool specifically would be developers, because they would be, or folks that are like more technically leaning. Is that the idea? And what's your ICP look like?
To be honest, I haven't thought through that yet. I don't really have like a ICP or a goal for trying to get the word out on Lumos. It's really just a project for me to learn and share some of my ideas. Admittedly, this Lumos is for mostly technical people, and there's a reason for that. I opted not to publish Lumos to the Google Web Store because I don't feel like it's production ready yet, and it is mostly because of the dependency on Ollama. So the need to go to ollama.com, download the Mac installer or Windows binary or whatever, that feels like too much of a jump for this to be broadly accessible. And so it is still in the back of my mind whether or not I should kind of take some action to kind of smooth out that installation experience. I will say I actually did try an implementation with Web LLM. So that was the previous local LLM technology that I mentioned. I did try an implementation that would not rely on any additional installation steps, and Web LLM would simply just run inside your browser. Unfortunately, I couldn't figure out how to get it to run, and I wrote about this pretty extensively too. So maybe I'll take some feedback from the group offline. But the challenge is that Chrome's Manifest v3 standard does not allow remote JavaScript execution, and that seems to be a pretty big hindrance on some of these like new technology, on some of the like older Chrome extension implementations, but also Web LLM's implementation, which leverages WASM and the need to download remote binaries and execute them. So I was like spinning wheels for like weeks, man. I was like trying to like break Chrome security, and I couldn't figure it out. So I just gave up.
I've actually tried a bunch of Chrome extensions before. I think it's a horrible dev experience completely. And I think the Chrome Web Store actually doesn't do anything. Like I think Honey and like Duolingo, a couple of these are like breakaway successes, but I don't think it's at all the norm with the Chrome extension store specifically, that they give you any sort of traffic. And those folks are, by the way, are not willing to pay either. I don't think anybody would pay for Honey like off the bat. It's probably like the business model is a little bit different. I'm sure like we can like think about a couple of ideas as you're showing this thing. But I wonder if open source is a better route to go with this than like a paid product at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that as well, and currently it is open source in its current form. You can.
Oh, sweet. There's a grant right now for aigrant.com that you can apply for funding. I think the applications are open right now.
Okay, interesting. I'll look it up right after this.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. But yeah, in the demo, I just want to show you how to summarize. It can summarize an article, summarize a Hacker News thread. You can manually select a specific piece of content from a Wikipedia page to send to the RAG workflow and the LLM. And then maybe I'll need a volunteer to help me pick out a fun restaurant or your favorite restaurant from Ontario, and then we can kind of see what's good and what's bad. And then I'll show you like how it helped me with my Spanish learning. I use Duolingo on the desktop. It's pretty nice experience, the Duolingo, and then I'll quickly give a quick demo of the calculator tool functionality. So let's see, I have a Medium article that I wrote about Olama already open in this tab. And first thing is I need to start the Olama server. So let me give it a start. Okay, cool. So I just want to say, summarize this article. Article. What is Lumos? And describe some of the
I
highlights.
think maybe you're typing in a window because we're only seeing the tab, the Chrome tab. You might need to share the entire thing for us to see what you're typing in.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Give me one moment. I'm going to stop sharing. Good catch. How about now? How about now? Okay, cool. So I have the prompt: summarize this article. What is Lumos? Describe some of the highlights. If I just hit enter, right now what's happening is all of the content on this page is being parsed, it's being chunked into different pieces, and it's calling the Olama embedding API to generate an embedding for the different chunks. And so admittedly, it's actually pretty slow. This is one of the big drawbacks of the local LLM. And so I know Olama right now has on their roadmap to add functionality to basically parallelize the embedding API call. And so this is something that I'm following pretty closely to make sure that I can integrate that as soon as they have that functionality released. But yeah, you can see it just gives a quick description. Lumos is an application that uses LangChain's LLM named Llama 2 for generating dynamic content. Author initially attempted to use Web LLM as a local provider for Lumos, so Web LLM that I mentioned before, and then they describe difficulties. So it gives you a very rudimentary kind of summary based on the prompt. Jonathan, go ahead.
Can you do a Wikipedia article?
Yeah, sure.
Go to like can you try like risk 5 Wikipedia article?
Sure, risk 5 Wikipedia article. I had Apple Vision Pro open.
RI, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, this is super long. So I'll kind of let you know ahead of time that the embedding is probably going to take a few minutes to like kind of get through this whole Wikipedia article.
Right.
So
I was reading your Medium. It could take minutes. Okay, this is fascinating. I love this. This is really cool.
But I'll go ahead and skip to like this particular feature that I wanted to highlight. What you can do is, instead of processing the entire content of the page, you can actually override the parser by just highlighting what you want to send to the LLM. So instead of going through the whole Wikipedia article, I'll just say summarize risk 5, and you're going to notice it'll be probably a lot quicker than generating the embeddings for the previous Medium article, because it just had a lot more content, just because I'm just sending this subset of highlighted content. And so, I think someone had brought up that this was kind of a useful use case because they wanted to highlight different things in a particular Google Doc, etc. So I just added it as a way to kind of override the parser, and it's like a very quick thing. The other thing that I wanted to show was like summarizing Hacker News threads. So Hacker News comments can get crazy. They're pretty long. I just refreshed to see what the latest news was. So I'll kind of pick something a little bit easy. Things we don't know about ourselves. So this is like number 8. I'll give it an upvote to just for fun. I'll go to the comments and I'll just say I'll just give it do another summary. So summarize the comments on this Hacker News thread. And so I actually found that Lumos is pretty helpful for doing summarizations on thread-like websites where there's lots of people kind of talking, lots of people injecting small pieces of content. So you can imagine sites like Reddit, Stack Overflow, GitHub issues. Sometimes when you get to like a GitHub issue with like 150 comments and like no one really knows what's going on anymore, it's really hard to like consume that content. So that was kind of the use case that I was thinking through. So I guess the thread is discussing the surprising phenomenon of the hype around Apple Vision's reality VR capabilities. So yeah, oops, sorry about that. I do see some comments here. Apple Vision is 3.5K, way too much, but I'm watching videos of it. I can see how it's showing me the future. So that's pretty funny. Okay, so those were kind of like the summarization features. Anyone have a restaurant that they went to recently? Or is anyone here a foodie? Or does anyone have a restaurant reservation coming up and you want me to like give you a recommendation for what to try?
Try Johnny Farina on Elgin Street.
Johnny Farina restaurant, 216 Elgin Street. Okay. So, oh, nice. It looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and say, what are the best menu items to try? So let's see if this matches up with what you're thinking.
And after you're done this, I have a question about whether, or actually, I guess I could do it now. This is really cool, and you said so you could do like Hacker News threads, right? So one idea that's in the AI Tinkerers group is from someone else is that the Discord is really big, and there's like Discords for various GitHub projects, right? So it would be really nice to have like a Discord summarizer along the lines like this. So is this something that you're thinking about?
Yeah, this was actually brought up by a few people already, and it's not just Discord. You can actually generalize this to any chat product that has a web application. So Discord, Slack, WhatsApp, those are all kind of brought up.
Teams would be great for companies and stuff.
Yeah. And so that is something. No, it's okay. It was something that's definitely on my radar, and I wanted to build a parser for it to make sure that it could work. So this is actually taking quite longer than I expected, but it's okay. What I can show you is maybe this is interesting or helpful to kind of understand how Lumos is working on the back end a little bit. I just opened up the developer console, and you can actually see that it received all of this content. So it actually received quite a bit of junk if you're looking on the left side. So you can see all of these quotations. It looks like a lot of stuff that's not review data. And so the reason is that I potentially didn't set up a parser for Yelp, so it didn't actually specifically grab stuff from the review section. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and I'll take a look. So Chrome extension has this feature where you can actually define options for it. So I just right-clicked on the Chrome extension icon. I clicked options, and you can see that this is where all of the parser configuration is. So I had a parser set up for medium.com, which is why the scraping was pretty fast. I have one for Stack Overflow. I have one for Reddit. Have one for Substack, and I do have one for Yelp. So I'm not super sure why it's taking so long. But I had one set up for Google Docs as well and Google Slides. But let's just see what's going on. So maybe this is the part where my demo fails. Apologies. Let's go back to.
And also, I just want to say, I think you're hitting at something really cool here of putting it in the browser, because the browser is definitely it's I like how you said it's like the most ergonomic way of using things on a computer. Most people just go to the browser for everything. It kind of eliminates a step of downloading the app and whatnot, you know?
Exactly. And I did find that having OpenAI or having ChatGPT open in another tab, it was even something as simple as that was still like almost too much work for me to
Yeah,
get through.
it's like friction. You gotta like tab, go, copy, paste what you want. It's too much. This is click and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna like pause this this part of the demo now so we can move on. But
Yeah.
Sukpal, you want to go?
Yeah, yeah. Just touching on the same point of like having the Chat GPT or the LLM right in your window. There was another project I was looking at, which is similar to yours. So maybe you can like grab the positioning. It's just that it says Chat GPT on your website, but you are doing Olama on your website. So you can actually take a privacy angle on this, by the way, so that hey, anything you're browsing isn't being recorded. Everybody else. So that is a better positioning to take for the work that you're doing. The other thing is, I think the speed is a bigger issue. I don't know if you're optimizing for like actual users, so that's the angle that I'm coming in from. If you were to put it out properly, I think one of the things I would do right away is save the data of like, so if you've scraped, if I've been to this restaurant before and I've asked a question before, just save that into the memory somewhere, data folder, so I can like bring it up. Or even when you're scraping the page, just ask it 4 or 5 common questions. So on Yelp, you might always want to know what are the bad reviews, what are the top items, whatever, like 3 or 4 things. Just one shot, answer those questions, save them in the memory, so you can bring them up every single time. The other thing I would love for this thing, I think it's a good generic right now. But imagine like I think very easily you could set up like custom instructions, same as the ones you have in the parser for like for Hacker News, always summarize the comments. For Yelp, always ask these 3 questions that are ready to go. So you have like, yeah, the speed of it is like quick. And then if I want to like have a custom request and I can go in, that might help with the adoption.
For sure. And this is all like really good feedback. I just brought over my VS Code so that you could look at the embedding, how long it takes. So it's almost taking 900 milliseconds just to create one embedding for a chunk of the website. You could see that there was a lot of junk that it parsed. So maybe I'll come back to this this part of the demo in a little bit, but I want to kind of talk about some of my thinking around speed, because there are some constraints that you kind of have to think through. One is Chrome already has a limit to how much data that you can store in a Chrome extension. So I wanted to be like very conscious of that, not to like create a super bloated Chrome extension, because Chrome, is already kind of bloated, to be honest, right? And the other thing is, when we think of like optimizations, like pre-generating embeddings or asking, the same questions, we have to take into the context, like the website that you're looking at. So kind of like what you said, for Yelp, there's probably just 3 or 4 common sets of questions that you kind of always just want to ask. The other part of that is, because content on the internet is also becoming like obsolete, right? So like the news cycle from last month, it may not be relevant anymore. Storing those embeddings from the news cycles from last month is not necessarily something that you want to do for a very long time. And so you want to have like a very short TTL for that kind of content. But yeah, there's like constraints, dynamics, considerations, and it's all stuff that I'm thinking through. So this is definitely not going to finish. So I'll just go on to the multimodal demo. So what I want to do is I want to switch to Lava, which is the multimodal LLM. I'll pick out a photo. So let's just pick out this one, because it's like a really good looking pizza. I'll open it up in a new tab, and so I'll just kill my Olama server quickly just to give it a fresh start. So one more start, and I want to say like, what's in this image? So what it's doing is it's downloading the image of this pizza, and it's passing it to Lava. And Lava right now, its capability feels a little bit limited. Right now, all you can do is send it an image, and it'll like describe what's going on. So again, I'll open the inspector kind of just to give you guys a hint of like what's going on. You could see. I know this is like really hard to see. I'm sorry, but when you guys play around with it, you guys should definitely check out what's going on in the browser. But you can see that I've just downloaded the image for this, and Lumos is spitting out. The image shows a large pizza with various toppings inside an open cardboard box. The pizza is golden brown crust, etc., etc., etc. So looks like a good pizza. Looks like a good restaurant. Fun to play around if you just want to have your LLM just describe images that are going on. Okay, getting help with Spanish lessons. You know, I found a Mistral to be like really good already with English to Spanish translations. So I'm trying to practice Spanish right now, and so I'll kind of quickly go through one lesson that I'm going through. So I have a little checkbox here that just says disable content parsing, so you can completely bypass the RAG implementation if you want. It'll just speed things up a little bit faster. So I'll say I'll ask it in what does lefties mean in English? I'll just give the LLM a little hint. And I found that it's like really helpful. And so, you know, Lumos is free to use. Not ChatGPT. Duolingo Max, which has all of the AI and LLM functionality, is not free to use. So I've found that this was actually super helpful with my learning of Spanish. So it said the Spanish word lapiz refers to the type of stone used for grinding spices or coffee. If you know Spanish, you know this is not correct. So let me switch the model to something a little bit more powerful. I'm going to use Mistral, and let's try that one more time. So another thing is if you click on the little avatar for each of the messages, it just copies the text to your clipboard. So I'll try one more time. What does lapiz mean in English? The word lapiz means pencil. So yes, pencil is the correct answer. So you could see that as I switched models, I got a little bit better results. So it looks like Lava is not necessarily so good at translation, but Mistral is very good. The last thing I kind of want to show before we wrap is, or before we get to kind of like the future, is calculator tool. So I don't know what motivated me to build this, but I just wanted a calculator inside Lumos. I don't like using the Mac OS calculator. You can't see history. You can't send it like really complex equations. So I'm going to just say, what's the result of this really hard equation? And you can see it almost immediately spit out a number. And so if anyone wants to kind of check that, that'd be great. I'll check it after. But basically, I use the LLM to classify the prompt and determine whether I want to invoke a tool or whether I should pass this question to the LLM. And so in this case, you can kind of see by the change in avatar and the change in color of the message bubble that the LLM classified this as a question that should be offloaded to a LangChain tool and not processed by the LLM itself. So this is kind of how an agent would like kind of use tools, except I'm doing it a little bit different. And again, I have a write-up later kind of talking about some of that stuff. But yeah, like I like, it's convenient. It's just right in my browser. I can see the history of the equations and the computations I'm doing. And kind of like I mentioned in my slides, my wife and I split our utility bills and whatnot. So it's just a quick way for me to just look at my bill online, figure out how to divvy it up without having to, open the calculator app, which is, it's also trivial, to be fair. So future of Lumos. I want to explore integrating more LangChain tools. I know there's a bunch out there. I want to do it in a specific way. I want to make sure that it's like easy, free if possible to use. That's kind of another big thing. Improving the RAG search. That's something that like you guys just saw on my Yelp demo. I need to do a number of improvements to that, mostly on speed, but also on quality of result as well. I'm going to evaluate whether or not I want to migrate the implementation to LangChain's agent executor approach. I don't actually know if that's possible with Ollama yet. It's just something I need to look into. Write more technical blogs about Lumos. I want to share my ideas, share the implementation. Some of it is right, some of it is wrong, some of it makes no sense, and some of it will stick potentially. And so just continue writing, continue building, try to get contributions. I'm not a front-end developer, or I don't have a lot of experience. This is like one of the first big front-end projects that I've worked on. I built it in React just because I felt like that was the easiest for me to learn and the easiest for people to contribute to. But yeah, looking for help. And I do think that there is an opportunity to kind of more deeply integrate LLMs into a browser. And I think we've all probably seen Perplexity is now embedded in the Arc browser. I'm sure Chrome is going to have their own Gemini Copilot built in at some point. I have a lot of ideas on what features could be built, how this can be done, implications for LLMs in the browser. I'm working on like a prototype, and so if you guys will have me back later, I'm happy to kind of share some of that stuff as well. But here are the links to the repository. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I talk about LLM sometimes. If you want to follow my reading, I have a Medium blog that I write a lot about. I've already written 3 articles about Lumos. I have another one coming. And it kind of just walks through my thinking, my decision-making, trade-offs, why I did such and such. But that's it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. So just to be mindful of time, I'll just ask 2 more questions. And then if you're available on Discord to do like an AMA or something.
Sure.
Okay, great. So what are some surprising lessons that you learned from building your first project, which was a review GPT?
Lessons. Okay. I think a big lesson is, and this is going back to the conversation that we had like before people started joining the meeting. No, right now in AI LLM tech world specifically, no idea is dumb. No implementation is dumb. What I learned, I was very hesitant to actually kind of share and write about some of this stuff broadly, just because I'm like, maybe I was a little bit embarrassed. I wasn't confident enough to kind of think that, hey, like maybe this way of doing something actually mattered. And like, it's only the only thing that matters is OpenAI and what LangChain and what Perplexity are doing. That's completely false. Do not if that's what you're thinking, get that out of your mind. Like the whole space is open right now. Anything can happen. So publish your work, share your ideas. It could be that what you're thinking is going to be how it will be moving forward, right? Whether that's a type of abstraction for a library, whether it's a method for invoking tools. I would just say right now it's just too early for anything to be locked in, and yeah, everything is open and up for grabs. I think that was the biggest lesson, because I had no idea that a little silly Chrome extension LLM would get the attention of like the team at LangChain. So I was pretty happy about that.
Great lesson. Last question. Do you envision a future where like traditional SaaS products would be leveraging local models, like plugging into Ollama to run their service and offload like the compute and all the cost to the user?
Potentially. It's hard to think that would be the case now. But I do think that there are very specific use cases that local LLMs are very good for. So you can imagine privacy concerns, right? So there is kind of this trend in SaaS where instead of running software in the cloud, people want their software running on premise. So on my AWS instances and on my hardware and my stuff. And if a company has that privacy concern and they still have to kind of call out to OpenAI or whoever to get results, then that privacy concern is potentially not met. And I know OpenAI has enterprise product right now where they will guarantee I'm not going to train on your data, etc. But maybe there are some use cases where a company just needs to take even another step after that. Like I need a stronger guarantee. I need a guarantee that data cannot move across this physical machine, across this network. And maybe that's even going to be even be motivated by regulation. I know there are a lot of rules against data transfer in the EU, where like your data cannot leave your country, etc. I don't know all the laws, I don't know all the rules, but it does feel like there may be like a very niche use case for SaaS to run local LLMs to just offload some of the really hardcore security stuff to the local machine. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Great. Thank you for your time. This has been a great presentation. That's it. That's